Hi, I'm Torte de Lini. When it comes to playing as Abrams, knowing how to toe the line between being aggressive versus standing your ground can be the difference between staying alive and shifting a fight in your favor. Typically suggested for new players, especially those who aren't comfortable with aiming, Abrams is a very straightforward hero who plays in close proximity to his enemies and relies both on his short-range shotgun weapon as well as his physical melee attack. While any hero in Deadlock can be focused on melee, Abrams' abilities and standard items revolve around that close combat to overwhelm the enemy. Abrams' weapon is unique in that a player doesn't need to fully reload his weapon, called case closed, to start firing again. Abrams' playstyle can be split across two identities. One, his early to mid game revolves around your ganking and initiating proactiveness, whereas late game, two, your goal is to maintain constant presence and pressure in fights, while also mitigating the damage you're receiving with the right defensive items. Both sides of Abrams center on your ability to disrupt fights and punish mispositioned enemies for your team to follow up on. Throughout the different stages of the game, you'll find that Abrams' ability to get in a fight is both his best quality, but also a difficulty when you are having trouble getting out as opponents try to slow or incapacitate you and tear you down quickly. During the early game, Abrams is dedicated on securing souls with his melee attack, so the enemy cannot deny it, while looking to set up potential kills by shoulder charging enemies into walls to finish them off. It depends on both his passive Infernal Resilience and his first ability Siphon Life to keep his health always at a high level and thus a potential threat to the enemy laning duo. In the mid game, putting pressure on the enemy team and ganking regularly gives space for your late game damage dealers to farm while you follow up on your successful ganks by taking objectives like Guardians and Walkers, thus securing and controlling more of the map. This perfectly sets Abrams up for the late game, where he'll shift away from being the first one in a fight and concentrate more on his timing to jump in with seismic impact and repositioning enemies with shoulder charge to tip team fights in your favor. With team skirmishes lasting the longest towards the later parts of a match, Abrams players face a critical decision of knowing when to initiate and, most importantly, when to get out or to persistently follow through with your weapon damage attacks. Abrams is at his strongest in the mid game, where he has the maneuverability and map freedom to get the jump and stun on enemies and finish them off before they can even react. Skill build breakdown. Abrams' 4 abilities revolve around his 2 major qualities, sustain and initiation. In terms of sustainability, Abrams has 2 abilities, Siphon Life and Infernal Resilience. His first ability, Siphon Life, damages enemies in an AoE and converts that into life for Abrams. While you gain more life back when reaching enemy heroes, you can regularly use this ability to both help with slaying neutral camps quickly, but also in the laning stage where a lot of troopers will be near Abrams. The range on Siphon Life is fairly large, so it can be used both to damage fleeing enemies that you can't quite reach with your weapon or melee attacks, and it's a nice complementary ability when you jump right into a fight with your seismic impact to hit multiple enemy heroes simultaneously. Abrams' second sustainability, Infernal Resilience, is a passive ability that not only provides health regeneration, but converts the damage Abrams receives back into health regeneration. This ability makes any kind of harassment Abrams receives only temporary, as he can gain the health back over time, putting the onus on the enemy to either finish Abrams off before he can regenerate his life back, or having a sufficient amount of output to out damage the regeneration there and then. His other major quality, Initiation, is defined by his 2 other abilities, Shoulder Charge and Seismic Impact. Shoulder Charge gives Abrams incredible speed, and any enemy caught in front of his charge are carried throughout the duration of the charge. If Abrams comes in contact with a wall, that enemy is also stunned, which gives Abrams the perfect opportunity to land a melee attack or start blasting with his weapon. Shoulder Charge is Abrams' most popular ability because it can be used both as a means of escape or initiation on a target. For example, you can use Shoulder Charge to separate an ally from his laning partner, or if the enemy is overextended, you can charge them into your tower for the defensive structure to then slay the enemy. Seismic Impact is your final ability and causes Abrams to jump high in the air before choosing a massive damaging AoE to land and stun enemies within. When casting this ability, don't feel rushed to immediately land if there aren't any good opportunities. The ability actually keeps Abrams in the air for several seconds, giving you plenty of time to plan and see how your opponents will react. What's really cool is that if you are moving quickly in a direction before casting Seismic Impact, you will maintain some of that direction while deciding where to land, or you can always manually determine your direction with your movement keys. Alternatively, if you're being targeted and need to escape, you can use this ability to gain massive distance away from your opponent, and you can cast Shoulder Charge right after. Be wary of hitting any ceilings or decorations that may prevent you from reaching maximum height. In terms of ability unlocks, we prioritize Infernal Resilience to focus on sustain in the lane. Once you have some damage items, you unlock Shoulder Charge to really lay down some damage after stunning the target. Leveling your abilities is more focused on initiation, with sustain abilities taking a back seat. Early points in Shoulder Charge is not unheard of. While it's popular to put in 2 points in Infernal Resilience, both to sustain in the lane, but also when you start roaming and being proactive on the map, as the health gain is a static amount. So it doesn't scale all that well as the game gets later, and the damage starts to outscale the health gain value. Usually Abrams players max out Seismic Impact when they start to teamfight a lot, because at its highest level, Abrams gains a debuff immunity both during and after landing, giving Abrams a lot of time to dish out weapon and melee damage uninterrupted and to avoid being punished by enemies who are afar and looking to counter initiate on you. Shoulder Charge can also be popular to max out first, as it helps you finish off enemies more swiftly with weapon damage, and that minimum 2 points in Shoulder Charge can be necessary if your enemies are starting to buy Debuff Reducer. Item build breakdown. Abrams items revolve around mostly weapon and melee damage, survivability, and movement. During laning stage, items revolving around your melee damage are fairly popular, like Melee Lifesteal, which helps with securing souls with last hits on troopers while also giving you some life back, as well as maybe Spirit Strike, which adds more damage to your punch but also enhances spirit damage you deal from Siphon Life and Shoulder Charge. Close Quarters is also a common pickup because it gives Abrams some bullet resistance while adding damage to your melee and weapon damage consistently, since Abrams' weapon is fairly short range. Don't forget about extra health and sprint boots as being valuable additions. Towards the mid game, Abrams can start looking at items that give him a bit more oomph in his damage. Items like Melee Charge not only gives your heavy melee attacks more damage and reach, but it also reloads or adds to your weapon ammo, making farming troopers and neutral camps a lot more efficient. Similarly, Cold Front is one of the rare spirit items that Abrams buys because it gives you some spirit resist, which is a rarity in Abrams' item build, but also because it helps you farm troopers and neutrals more quickly, since the Ice Blast does double the AoE damage. Cold Front also works well as a follow-up to Shoulder Charge or Seismic Impact, then continually slow and keep foes near Abrams for additional punches and shotgun blasts. Alternatively, if need be, slowing Hex can be an optional pickup when dealing with heroes who have strong escape abilities like Wraith and Project Mind, or Vindicta and Flight. Kinetic Dash is often picked up for Abrams to give him a stronger lead up to his Shoulder Charge before the enemies can see him coming. We usually ignore items like Fleetfoot because removing the movement penalty when shooting isn't all that relevant when you're mostly punching foes. What's more is that Kinetic Dash helps to compensate for Abrams' stamina limitations while giving him some more fire rate and ammo. Berserker is another mid-game item that pairs well with Abrams' overall tankiness. As he takes more damage, he gains more damage, punishing foes who choose to fight him instead of attempting and failing to run. The requirement of needing to take damage in order to gain more damage to maximize the value of Berserker is mitigated by Abrams' Siphon Life and Infernal Resilience, converting damage he takes back into regeneration. By equipping Healing Booster, Abrams enhances all those sustaining qualities even more, on top of improving the lifesteal he gets when using melee, and the item also gives him even more spirit resist. Lastly, don't forget to upgrade your sprint boots into enduring speed. Late game, item upgrades become more and more necessary. Bumping melee lifesteal to life strike means after Seismic Impact stun, Shoulder Charge stun, and Cold Front slow, you can now start slowing them with just your punches to keep them within Abrams' Siphon Life. What's more is that you are also lifestealing even more, and that is enhanced by the Healing Booster. Spirit Snatch is also an upgrade to your melee with some more damage, spirit resist, and it also steals resist from your targets, tanking Abrams up and enhancing that Siphon Life for even more damage and health back to Abrams. Don't forget to also upgrade Close Quarters to Point Blank for that extra stamina and giving your shotgun weapon damage its own slow too. That also applies to your melee attacks even more. The Arcane Surge is similar as an upgrade to Kinetic Dash and enhances your abilities to be even more potent and further reaching. If the match goes truly late or you're finding yourself with a massive surplus of souls, Frenzy can be a popular pickup to top off any more bullet resist you need to survive against late game damage dealers like Haze or Wraith, while giving you movement speed to stay on top of enemies you catch out with your initiating abilities. Frenzy also pairs really well with Colossus to give you massive health and even more melee damage, as well as bullet and spirit resist. Remember, late game, Abrams is more focused on staying in fights and surviving, so Colossus giving you a movement slow on any nearby enemies with all that survivability plays well with that late game playstyle. Regarding situational items, pickups like Debuff Reducer can help you deal with enemies who parry you a lot, reducing how long you are stunned for. Duration Extender can help deal with enemies who will pick up Debuff Reducer trying to prevent your Shoulder Charge into heavy melee attack combo. What's more is that you might still need to pick up spirit and bullet armor in the mid game if you still find yourself regularly dying. Ethereal Shift can be a nice late game item when you need to avoid some targeted damage and you've used up all of your other items and resistances. Escalating Resilience can be great to help against enemy teams who are mostly on the weapon damage side, and on the flip side, Hunter's Aura is to help punish enemies with your team's weapon damage allegiance. Before I go, here are some final tips on how to play even better with Abrams. Number 1, try to fake out parries by punching and changing your direction before your charge punch goes through. This is called parry baiting. Number 2, your light melee is just as good too if you feel like you're telegraphing too much with your melee attacks. Just generally mixing in both punching and shooting helps keeps opponents second guessing if they should parry or not. For example, you can charge, quick melee, and then immediately charge melee to trick people into wasting the parry on your smaller attack, forcing it to go on cooldown. Number 3, don't feel the need to always be the first one into a fight. Sometimes you can counter initiate on enemies to disrupt what they thought was a good jump on your team. 4, Abrams takes down towers decently well because if you are near enough on a guardian, all your shotgun bullets will land. Number 5, you can actually also melee the tower and parry them to prevent their melee attacks from hurting you. Practice your timing. This can be useful to dive people past the tower, knowing you can just parry the guardian's attack and finish your enemy off. 6, Siphon's Life's description says it drains health from enemies in front of you, but I've found that it more depends on your camera angle than the actual direction Abrams is facing. And lastly, number 7, use Seismic Impact to steal the Rejuvenator as it will stun all enemies inside and give you the chance to heavy melee the Rejuvenator buff. Okay, that's it from me. If I've genuinely helped you with this video and you want to see more, please like and subscribe. Maybe check out becoming a paying member on my channel. Your support, whether with comments, sharing my videos, or becoming a paying member, makes this channel possible. Check out my Twitch channel. You can subscribe there as well. You can watch me play, test, and learn more about Deadlock. And then let me know in the comments if you have any questions or you have maybe additional tips and tricks I might have missed. I'll give them a little heart and float those comments up to the top for any players looking for more cool secrets and lessons about Abrams. Thanks.